Welcome to an update explainer video for WP Interactions. So in this video, I'm gonna show you the new scroll strength interaction, the new play pause video action, and the get URL parameter action. So these just got released in version 1.2, so make sure you have the same version if you don't see these new options. So first we have the scroll strength interaction. This interaction lets you trigger animations based on how strongly or quickly a user scrolls up or down the page. This effect reacts to the user's scrolling momentum. So the stronger scrolls, like this, create much more intense animations, and then they all gradually ease down as the scrolling slows down or stops. Let me show you how I created this in the block editor. So first I have some spacer blocks at the top and bottom. So this is to allow me to scroll freely up and down. And then this in the middle is just a set of columns with a heading block and a paragraph block. I also added CSS class for this column block. It's called grow card. So this is so that I can target this for the interaction. So let's go and check out the interaction. First, you just have to click on WP Interactions on the top right. And then if you want to add a page scroll strength interaction, you click on the plus button over here in the page interactions and then click on page scroll strength. But for us, I have already created one. So let's just see how it works. So you'll first notice the timeline. So I have two actions. Both are scale because the effect that we went for, we want when the user scrolls, the card grows a bit and then gradually goes back down. So I have one at 0%. So 0% means that this is the resting state. So when there's no scroll going on. So I set the scale to have 1 and 1 horizontal scale and vertical scale. So this means it's just the normal amount of size. And I applied this to the grow card CSS class. And then at 26%, so this is just an arbitrary value I tried. I also have another scale action, but now the value is 1.05. So this means I want the block to grow 105% larger, vertically and horizontally. And then I also target the grow card CSS class. So to help you visualize what's happening here, I can just turn on the live preview toggle, and then you'll see there's a new indicator that appeared. It says right now it's at 0%, which means because we're not doing any scrolling, the effect is now at 0%, which is the normal amount of scale. But let's see if I scroll the editor, you can see it moves. So now, as you can also check, the block grows a bit when I scroll and then gradually goes back down to the scale of 1. So since I targeted the grow card CSS class, that means when I duplicate this block, I would have two column blocks and both would have CSS of grow card, these two. So now when I go back and do a live preview, the effect would be added to both. So we also have some other options over here. So first it's smoothness. Right now it's set at 1000. So this means that the timeline moves more slowly. So we can delete that and use a value of 200. So now if we do a preview, the effect is much more faster. And then you also have your max scroll amount. So this is the value that represents the 100% scroll strength. Let me show you the play or pause video action. So this action allows you to start playing a video at any given time or pause a currently playing video or toggle it to play or pause. So sounds very simple, but this action actually allows you to create amazing entrance effects. So in this example here, I'm using a native cover block with a background video, and notice when I scroll down and it comes into view, the video starts playing. Then after a few seconds, it stops playing. And now with this design, it kind of starts like a video, this section, and then it stops. And now it kind of acts like a normal image background. Apple does this effect as well. So this is the page for their AirPods. And notice that if I scroll down to the next section over here, the AirPods get into view. And then it plays and then it stops. So it's kind of like an entrance effect. But in reality, if you check it out, it's just a video that plays when the container comes into view and then stops after a few seconds. So it's a great application, and now you can do something like this too. So going back to our example, here's how it was created. In the block editor, I have a huge spacer again so I can demo the effect, but all I have down here below is a native cover block. Here, native cover block. And I just added a video background to it. So as you can see, the video just keeps on looping here, and it's gonna loop again there. And that's how it would normally behave if you just use a background video. So the secret lies here is with the interaction that we've added to it. So let's just open it. And for here, I'm using an entered into viewport interaction. So this timeline over here will start playing when our cover block comes into view. So I have 3 actions. Since the background video by default keeps on playing, I want it to stop at the start. So the first action pauses the video at the start, this one. And then what I want to happen is when the cover block gets into view, I want it to play and start at 0 seconds. And then after 5 seconds, which is this one, the starting time is 5 seconds, I want the video to stop. That's it. So let's try and preview this and see what happens. So now the indicator is counting up. We're at 2, 3, 4, and 5. And when it hits 5, it stops. So lastly, here's the get parameter URL action. This is a data type action, so which means that you can use this action to grab some data and then use them as inputs in other actions. So for example, in this page, I have my URL, and at the end you see a get parameter. It says here first equals Benjamin. So you usually encounter URLs like this if something is being passed along to another page. Maybe you clicked on a button and then it directed you to another URL along with some parameters. So for us, let's pretend that we are getting this first name over here. So the interaction is set up this way. If I click on this button, it's gonna grab that URL, the parameter first, and then it's gonna input it in this field over here. So just click on it, and now it says Benjamin. So let's try it again, but let's change the URL. So let's replace this with hello, and then when I click on it, it fills it up with hello. So where is something like this useful? So you can use it in this way for pre-filling up fields, or you can also use it to customize parts of your website or your UI depending on what's passed in the URL. So how did we create this? First, we have some custom HTML to display the input field. So you have just a label with the input text field with name equals first. We are going to use this to target this input field later on. And then I have a button, and then this will have the interaction that can trigger the getting of the parameter from the URL. So as you can see on this button here, it means I have an interaction tied up to this button. So let's go ahead and edit it. So in my timeline, I have 2 actions. First is the get parameter action. This is the new one. So let's see what's inside. So for this one, we want to get the parameter first. And then we want this value to be accessible to actions further down our timeline. So we need to give this a reference ID. So I've added here first name. So our next action is we have a fill input action. Now this one will need an input value. So we can either type in here a static value, or we can click this lightning icon over here, and this will show us any values defined from previous steps. And we can see here the first name reference ID that we added earlier. So we can just select it. And lastly, we need to specify what element we want to fill the input. So we can pick here CSS selector, and I'm gonna use the name equals first selector here so that we can target this input field. Unfortunately, we can't do a preview here, but it's pretty straightforward. First, you get the parameter from the URL, and then you fill it up to an input field. So there you have it. These are the new features we've just released for WP Interactions. You can use these interactions and actions anywhere you like. You can mix and match them and build complex user interactions. If you have any comments or suggestions for future updates, let us know in the comments below. Thanks.